This university already has a national reputation for enhancing learning through appropriate use of technologies, in particular for its use of embedded electronic personal development planning and the use of WARF. This approach to providing electronic learning opportunities, which extend and enhance the face-to-face learning sessions, is most commonly known as blended learning, and this is one of the key ways in which the university aims to improve the achievement and the success of its learners throughout all of its learning programs. This short video showcases some of the many successful and innovative uses of blended learning being made by Wolverhampton staff and by learners from all our schools. It focuses on 5 areas of blended learning, namely the creative and stimulating use of electronic content, collaborative learning, formative assessment with feedback, the integrated use of EPDP to increase learners' awareness of themselves as learners, and on how technology can save time and paper with electronic assignment submission.
I like the Garrison and Vaughan quote. That it's about thoughtful fusion. So it starts from the curriculum for me, and it starts from the students and how the blending of their learning experience might enhance their experience at university. Really, blending is about the whole package. It's about thinking about the student first and how the activities that you might want them to engage in can support them in their learning.
In the past, I used to say to students or write in their feedback, why don't you have a look at this section of this book? That meant students had to go to the learning centre, they had to find the book, it had to be there on the shelf, they had to take it out and they had to read it. Now it's possible to put a link in the feedback which will take students to a source that will help them. So that when students get their feedback, they can click on a link and go directly to a page that will help them deal with the issue that's been raised in feedback. So sometimes, it's difficult to conceive what an essay looks like in history, for example. So on one of my modules on the Holocaust, we use this essay here, which we can see marked, we can see the tutor's comments. And what we can also do here with the webfolio is to create our own, if you like, little web packages that address the specific needs that, say, a group of students would have on an assignment.
The main benefit is it saves you from actually coming into university and collecting your feedback physically. Electronic feedback allows you to do your follow-up research over the internet, books, study skills, advisors, online, appointments.
Well, last semester 2, Deirdre did use it for the first time, and we were all thinking, oh goodness gracious, what is this? But from my point of view, because I live such a long way away from the university, it was excellent because we got it, she downloaded it to us, we could read it, and then we commented on it ourselves, we could download that back, and then if we needed to make appointments, we could do that online. Any resources she recommended, we could do it there and then, sitting at home without having to come in, make different appointments, seeing different people, going to different departments. It was really good.
And the strategic marketing, and then we actually look at our results from the Markstreit game and talk about it, and afterwards we meet off campus in groups. Then we talk about what happened, our results, and what have to figure out a new decision.
It takes away the whole concept of your standard university learning. Like mentioned earlier, it was like instead of having your PowerPoint slides and the lecturer delivering the lecture to you, it's different because you're going away and you're being involved in something, a bit more academic, but not so much so. So it's away from the university academia. It's more like in the working place. So it's as if you're running your own business, really.
And actually, you're actually quite interested in it as well because your decisions are actually being monitored and you get results back and feedback. And at the end of it all, we have got to do a report on it and base our final, classification on what we found out.
What is interesting about this all blended exercise is that, in fact, every time the students play, they don't just play against the software, they play against each other. And that makes the whole simulation very close to reality, because in fact you have an industry, you have 6 teams competing against each other. So a decision from one team will have an impact on all of the team's decisions. And again, this brings us to what we try to teach them on the normal lecture. This is about, for instance, strategic groups and why do you compete against one competitor and you are not competing against another competitor. There are forums that we've set through the WOLF platform, so actually they can email each other, they can go into WOLF and chat online, or they can just go into the forum and, you know, talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, essentially I teach what's generally regarded as quite a difficult technical subject, and the students have difficulty understanding some of the concepts. So I thought that if we were to put some sort of online questions on WOLF, some multiple choice questions that tested the various principles that they were going to have to understand, that would just sort of greatly help them. And it started off with just a few questions, but I've sort of got quite into it. We've got about 80 or 90 questions on now. And the way it works is, what I'll do, I'll draw up each question, and then I'll do 4 alternative answers and feedback for each answer. So if they get the answer correct, the WOLF gives them tells them why it's correct, and if they choose one of the incorrect answers, it tells them why the answers were incorrect. And I've done it for 2 years, but the first year I did a bit of research and actually got an article published on the benefits of the use of online formative assessment, and it did. My findings were that it did appear to be beneficial as regards their summative assessment. So what I did, I changed the assessment strategy the following year, so that part of the summative assessment is multiple choice questions, so and that worked very, very well indeed last year. I can track how many students are using the online questions, and virtually all of the cohort used them, and virtually all of them used them several times, and the results were excellent. The external was very pleased with the results, so I think it's worked very well.
Because mainly this is about personal development, and then I can see what certain things you'd need to be aware of yourself, of your strengths and your weaknesses.
So it's kind of helped me with my organisation. So I think in that aspect, Pebble Pads helped me a lot. It's about, the whole emphasis is about me learning, and I control my own education, whereas previously with A-levels, I had everything dictated to me.
The students will be working in a variety of different group scenarios to solve some problems. They'll be doing some reflective writing to think about how they got on with those sorts of activities. They will be doing some planning activities which they will then carry through and set up some activity in their PDP. And record their reflective comments in that, which will take place after the lesson.
And they're doing one of the first tasks towards that piece of coursework, which is completing a skills audit based on 3 key skills that we're looking to develop, which are referencing and finding information and essay writing. So they fill the skills audit in, which is a bespoke one for this piece of coursework, and then we're asking them to do an action plan based on the skills audit to look at the skills that they need to develop. There were certain things that the students weren't picking up on, and I think the importance of these key skills needs to be highlighted. So this is how we chose to do it, and I think that one of the benefits for them is to identify what we expect at university level, and to identify what the differences are between the work they've done before and the work they need to produce now, but also for them to identify what they can bring. So it's not just about sort of what you need to develop, but also what skills can you bring with you to give them the confidence to use those skills. We can see how the students value the feedback that they get through Pebble Pad, and from that I think we can see that there are quite a few benefits that the students have noted. One of the things being that they can identify their own strengths, and it gives them a bit more confidence to work on those skills rather than feeling like they're starting from scratch.
You're doing so much at university that you can forget what you've actually learned. So by using Pebble Pad, you have you can set up these little thoughts which are like for reflection, and you can go back and have a look at where you were at the beginning of the year by each different module, and then you can track it forward, and you can actually see your own progress as you go along. And you can also put in there things like your achievements, which I've been using myself as well. It's like, woo, I did that and I did that. So yeah, it's a really good way of storing information without it being paper based, or yeah, it's nice and straightforward. Yeah. Wendy introduced us to this concept of taking ownership for your own learning and your own development using the software PebblePad. I think what's cool about PebblePad is that you get to do an assessment on lots of different areas of your own competencies, and then you can you rate yourself and you grade yourself, for example, writing skills, critical thinking, stuff like that. And then you can always go back at a later date, you know, to upgrade where you think you're now at compared to where you were at the beginning.
To complete the portfolio, we've had to have certain information, which I believe if it was in a lecture and it was non-stop information, we'd get bored. But because it's been put into like 5 little sections, and we've been able to take it away and listen to it over and over again. So if we didn't quite understand something, we can listen to it until we actually do understand it. I reckon that's been a really great help. But I have used it all around the house, because like, you know, when your mum was watching telly and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered, so I just go in my bedroom and download it up there. You know, when you're not all there on one day and then you go, oh, I've missed that, what am I going to do? But if it's all there in front of you and it's on the internet and you can access it anytime you want, it's amazing.
Today's lesson, we began with a presentation that I prepared that gives a context for the lesson, opens up the material that we're going to be discussing. Then the students have group tasks, which they'll go and do and present perhaps on a forum this week, whereas the previous week they might present live to the class. Now, once they've done those kind of things in a session, I've also provided them with podcasts which they can take up after the lesson. And they download those to their computer, and then they can listen to them on their iPods as they're going about other tasks or travelling. But ultimately they'll come back to the computer and they'll do a number of tasks related to that particular podcast. So each podcast I produce has questions related to them, which then add up to a kind of portfolio of material that shows how the students have engaged with the different subjects that we cover in the module.
We have a variety of tasks that we set for the students, and one of them could be, for example, a translation task. So students will have a clip that's been filmed via webcam, for example, put onto Wolf. They will then access the forum, upload their translations, and this can also be done anonymously, so that the students don't know who's put up a task. They can then feed back to each other quite honestly, because they don't know who's got the translation up there or who's feeding back.
Where we have created those tasks using Wolf, it's been very beneficial.
I suppose also students can go at their pace as well, and we can monitor their pace and their progress at the same time.
I find the feedback on Wolf very useful, not just feedback on my own work, but feedback on other students' work as well.
I feel more motivated to use a webcam because you can do it at your own pace and in your own comfort. And you can share it with others. We can send videos to each other, can't we?
Yeah.
And then report back on each other and what we'd do better.
Instead of having to trek into uni, like when I'm at home at the weekend, I can do it for myself, and I've still got the benefits of seeing everyone's work and being able to talk to people.
Going from sports psychology and some blended learning literature, and come up with a way to get my students to look at a mastery image, which is something done as well as it can be done, and try to get them to compare themselves to that image by taking pictures of them on a weekly basis for 4 weeks. So it started with the image, which had something to do like this. This is the mastery image that I gave them of a dancer in arabesque, and from there I showed them this image after taking an image of them in first week of class. So this is a pre-intervention image that I took of them, and this is the mastery image which I sent them by email. And on a weekly basis I ask them to compare themselves, the image I send them at the end of every week, by email through the Wolf topic that they are registered on, to this mastery image. And the results were very, very good, where we got an improvement in the height of the leg, and most of the improvement happened within the first week, and further improvements happened along the 4 weeks. So that was a roundabout way of using technology in a setting where students don't usually use technology.
and we were talking about reflective practice and our development as trainee teachers, and she took us through using a blog to work collaboratively, so working online together.
We've done about reflective learning and about our assignment, and so for that she helped us to set up a blog so that we can have individual support and support as a group and just kind of help each other with any queries for the assignment.
I found that my understanding of subject materials improved quite a lot through blogging and through the use of web folios. I have a different web folio for each module that I study, and that's meant that I've been able to take the lecture material and collate it with other resources and kind of mould it into something that's actually useful for me personally, and collaborative work is tied in with that as well.
Well, it's allowed me to clarify things and to go back and to take stock of what I've learned in the day. And also it's enabled me to guide other students and other people within my learning group, and that's helped a lot as well.
I find that blogging makes collaborative work so much easier. I mean, last year on placement, we were working individually miles away from our colleagues, and we were brought together through a blog so that we could share our experiences, the hard bits, the celebrations and the issues that we were facing we could share online.
It's a level 2 module, an RE-PHSE, and part of the assignment they have to do is using reflective practice. So what I do is actually set up a blog for them to write on the ideas about the stages of teacher development that we are discussing in the lecture. They use that to discuss the ideas and bounce off each other. And then as a moderator, I actually go in and contribute and give them directives and pointers of how they can expand on their thinking. Well, the blended learning approach that we use throughout to level 1, level 2, each trainee has their own web folio through PebblePad, and they use this to attach information and latest research, and this contributes and helps them towards their assignment. And the moderator actually go in and look at the web folios and give them feedback. I mean, the benefits of having a blog and blended learning is that there are some members of the group that are very quiet, and they appreciate extending the discussion outside the lecture. And you actually get to know their thoughts that you wouldn't otherwise know if you're asking questions and whole class discussions. So you can, value their contributions online as well.
So instead of kind of coming to the university and kind of handing it in, getting receipts back and stuff, it's more of an interactive submission, which is a lot easier if you live quite far away, so which I do. So instead of travelling in for like 10 minutes in the morning, it's a lot better. Once we get our results back, he said that we can always kind of arrange a time with him to have like a one-to-one.
They would normally have to come in to university physically to hand it in by a certain time on that day. This allows them to actually continue working on it until midnight of that day. Then they can send it, just as providing it's arrived before midnight, I will have that, and they've got it. So that's one benefit. They get more time to do it. They don't have to come into university to hand it in. So that's the positive side at the beginning. On the other side, once I've marked it, they will get the work back immediately. It just downloaded to their desks. Also, they will get written feedback that actually they can read. They will be able to read my comments. They're not dependent on my writing.
The university has an international reputation for enhanced learning through technology. The many excellent examples demonstrated in this film show how our staff and schools are finding innovative ways of using blended learning to develop opportunities for students and enrich their overall experience. Blending technology with more traditional approaches to learning has many benefits and enables us to give our students the best possible chance to fulfil their potential. Technology is critical to success in all aspects of modern life, especially education. The University of Wolverhampton has a long and successful history of using and developing different digital solutions to support the quality of learning and enhance the future employability of our students. Combining traditional taught lectures with technologies such as Wolf can transform learning and teaching. The work of the dedicated blended learning unit has ensured that we are ahead of many other institutions. We've made significant progress in areas such as podcasting and mobile learning, which are not as yet mainstream approaches. It's very pleasing to see the enthusiasm from both staff and students towards these approaches. The positive feedback regarding our techniques shows that Wolverhampton is an exciting place to teach and to learn. The benefits include instantaneous feedback and an increase in the amount of formative assessment opportunities. We can support a variety of learning styles, creating a more personalised experience for our students and taking their learning beyond the classroom. In the most recent National Student Survey, Wolverhampton was again rated as one of the best in the country for the quality of its learning resources and access to specialist equipment. Students are very appreciative of our computing and wireless facilities. With many students studying part-time or fitting their course around personal commitments, we are able to offer increased choice and flexibility, so they can choose to access information at a time to suit them, be it mid-morning or midnight. As the physical environment of the university continues to expand and develop, with superb new teaching and learning spaces and facilities, it is equally important that our virtual environment should grow. I look forward to continued progress in blended learning in the future. We have created a community of learners who work together and support each other, and I'm delighted by our success in this arena.